Game Informer just interviewed Ian Hazakostas talking about add-on changes and feedback and everything else that Blizzard's going through right now as we head into midnight. So let's just check this out real quick. A live interview with Ian Hazakostas.
I visited Blizzard HQ late last week to sit down with Ian Hazakostas, game director of World of Warcraft, to follow up on his latest blog post about the add-on disarmament and the upcoming Midnight expansion. I asked him to elaborate on a few of his points and to speak to some of the community's feedback directly.
I guess starting at the top, why is now the right time to address the add-on situation as opposed to introducing it later on or earlier at the start of the trilogy?
It's a mix of things. I mean, so to be a little bit flippant about it, it's like, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, second best time is today. We probably should have done more along these lines like 8 years ago when we started seeing add-ons pop up for the first time that weren't just making it easier to parse what was going on in a raid encounter, but were like very directly trying to solve problems and tell players just run to star, run to diamonds. This is how the mechanic is going to work. Because
he's not wrong. I mean, this has been a thing for a long time, and Blizzard's response to add-ons in boss fights was to increase the difficulty of the boss fight. Right, it became an arms race. Like, we're gonna make this more complicated. Then the add-on developers are going, we're gonna fucking break this one too. And then okay, we got to go more complicated. And it just kept going. And I think it really reached a peak in Shadowlands. I still say it till now. What was the jailer raid called? Oh god, Sepulchre of the First Ones. Was it? Yeah, Sepulchre of the First Ones. I think Sepulchre goes down as one of the most difficult raids ever put into the game. You guys remember, Halandris was literally clapping cheeks in the Race to World First for like a week. Like, people could not get past Halandris. It was insane. And then you get past that, you got the Dreadlords going down, you got a bunch of other shit. There were so many difficult fights that required multiple add-ons to kill. The Jailer was one of the easier parts of that entire raid. It was crazy. And I think that was like a breaking point where like, okay, this has become ridiculous. You need 17 weak auras to complete this raid. It shouldn't be this way. And maybe they had a come to Jesus moment where they're like, okay, we got to fix this. We should have done this a long time ago. It's time to fix this.
Should have been able to
Sam's favorite raid.
And ultimately,
definitely not.
It's been something that we've had to grapple with in designing the game, where because of the range of what add-ons are capable of. At the one end of the spectrum, you have players who are using none of them and just playing with the base UI. On the other end, the very extreme end, you have like world first guilds that have professional coders writing add-ons for them in real time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
To do better than anyone else can. And a whole gamut of information in between, including a lot of those, world first guild add-ons that are trickling out and going through the rest of the ecosystem. And yet we need to create an experience in the vein of meeting our players where they are that is going to be adequately challenging, adequately stimulating, adequately understandable for all of those players along all points of that spectrum. And that's a very big challenge. It's, in some cases, I think, impossible when we're looking at certain types of difficulty, certain types of content.
Oh, yeah.
If we design something...
I forget what the Dreadlords fight was called. Someone's commented about the Among Us fight. It was impossible to do without if you had the entire raid in there, not in Discord, it was impossible to do. And I remember this. We kicked people for not having the add-on. We did. So, you know what? Like, not only did it have this arms race going on where, like, everybody was rising and Blizzard's trying to make it more difficult and the player base is figuring out how to do it more easily, but then anyone who wasn't, like, an add-on Andy was being left behind. So you were limiting the player base that could actually do raids, too. It was not a good thing. Not a good time to be a person who maybe was older, maybe didn't understand how add-ons worked or whatever. Like, you got kicked and you didn't even know why. You're like, why'd I get kicked? I was so excited to do this fight. Well, you didn't download the correct weak aura package. That's why you got kicked. I mean, come on, that's fucking stupid. That's not a good thing. That doesn't sound like a healthy game to me. So this is better.
Thing that just ignores the existence
of
add-ons.
It needed to happen.
People who use those add-ons will trivialize a lot of what we've designed.
Oh my God, you were part of the problem. I didn't want to kick people, but we were not going to get past the fight if people didn't have the weak aura. Like, it was not doable. It was not doable with a pug if everybody didn't have the weak aura. There was no way to communicate quick enough of who was the Dreadlord. So it just had to happen. You either got the weak aura or you died. That's how it worked.
well, this is boring, this was dull, there wasn't anything for me to pay attention to or do, or just this was too easy.
Lords of Dread.
Or then on the flip side, if we are, recognizing, well, a lot of guilds are using these sorts of add-ons, let's make sure we're going to tune mechanics to give them very little time to respond to. We're going to throw 2 or 3 things at them at once, because that's what it takes when you have an add-on, offloading some of your cognitive load to really challenge a player. Well, then people who aren't feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Our goal here is to level the playing field and to set ourselves up for being able to build content that will better serve all of our players. And so the best time to do this as a result of that is now, because I think the game will be better on the other side. Now, of course, we need to do everything that we can to manage that transition and to make sure that it's fair and not frustrating for players.
It's going to be a scuffed transition. It's going to be scuffed as shit. It's going to break things. Things aren't going to work. Everything's going to be broken. People are going to say I'm unsubbing, but they're not actually going to unsub. It's like the oldest threat in the book. And then all this shit's going to happen. And then we're going to wake up one morning and, oh, the sun's coming through. What's going on? Oh, God. They fixed it. Oh, my God, this is actually better. Yeah, and we're going to get through it. We'll be okay. We'll hold hands. And at the end of the day, it's they're going to get it eventually. They're going to get it eventually. But I'm telling you right now, pre-patch midnight, going to be broken as shit, for sure.
And so we've been
full of shit.
hard at work over the course of the last year plus, both to tailor changes to what add-ons are capable of, to build up new capacities, new capabilities in our base UI, but also to rethink how we design raids and dungeons, how some of our class mechanics are designed, so that we can start moving
designs
towards a place where, again, it is a uniform experience for everyone. And I understand this is it's a controversial change. It's a big change. Players, if you're someone who has relied on add-ons and kind of viewed the world through this lens for many, many, many years now, the idea of that perspective changing can be an unsettling one. But at the same time, we are trying to do everything possible to preserve the aesthetic customization, the choices of where you want information displayed on your screen, the convenience and organizational tools people use to track their collections.
Look at those griffins. Griffins underrated, man. I love these things. I do. That's why I don't play with add-ons really. I like the base UI. I like how it looks. I'm an aesthetic kind of guy. I like it. But a lot of people, they'll get rid of those griffins for LVUI, which looks like plain old fucking square-ass dog shit. I don't understand it. But besides the point, if you want that LVUI look, you're still going to be able to get it. Not from them because they stopped making add-ons. But I was talking about it just earlier. The customization of your UI is still going to be there. It's not right now because Blizzard overclosed on shit and barred all that stuff out. But they're going to let it back in. And you'll be able to customize things how you want. You're just not going to have shit calling stuff out for you anymore. And what I'm excited for is I think it's going to make more exciting boss fights. I feel like Blizzard's going to give us some new mechanics besides swirlies and absorbs and pizza slices to dodge that we're gonna get to see now. We're going to see some new exciting boss mechanics because they don't have to worry about it being trivialized by add-ons. I think we'll get some cool stuff out of this, hopefully.
Or questing or professions or whatever. We want to disrupt basically none of those.
Who the hell would remove them from the default UI? Why would you get rid of the stone griffins? What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? If I could put those stone griffins on my UI in my life, I would do it. Those things are cool.
We're really just focused on limiting the functionality and only the functionality that's required.
Griffins need to be gone. This is
add-ons
ridiculous.
from giving you moment-to-moment,
ridiculous.
real-time combat assistance and solving problems for you there. We do recognize there's some collateral damage that results from even the narrowest version of what it'll take to stop those things, and we're in the process of working with our add-on developers, in this very helpful community to try to support them as best we can, to give them new tools, to give them ways of solving problems they're running into as they try to recreate entirely benign add-ons under this new framework.
Good.
Some users feel like this add-on disarmament is rushed. Can you talk about how long this effort has kind of been in process behind the scenes?
It's something that we've been thinking about and really saying we feel like we need to do this. I would say probably for 2 to 3 years. We've been planning, beginning to design out what our version of things would look like, beginning to figure out, how we would make this transformation.
Yeah.
For most of that time. And I think, in late last year.
They're never going to get it perfect. They're never going to get it perfect. Good is good enough. And like, I know some people right now, they'll be like, what are you talking about? I pay a sub. This shit got to be perfect. I pay every month for perfection. No, you don't. You don't. Because if they went for perfection, we would never get an expansion. It would just never happen. You would just constantly be iterating on it because it'll never be perfect. Sometimes it's the old adage, shit or get off the pot. You got to just you just got to do it. You just got to do it. You got to get it good, get it to a good state. Don't release it literally in fucking a shit form. We don't want to see that. That's what the beta and alpha are for. But at the end of the day, they gotta just pull the trigger. You gotta just do it. You gotta Nike swoosh that shit and just get it out there and start the process of fixing the game, removing the add-ons, getting the right UI into the game because we don't have add-ons anymore, and redesigning the game so it works without add-ons. All that shit has to happen, and it's never going to be perfect. And it's just something you got to accept.
I think we started talking publicly about our philosophy here and where things might be headed, with the, kind of one of the final checks in our plan being wanting to take the community's temperature on this, wanting to make sure that, even as much as we could see as developers that we feel like this is limiting our ability to serve our players. If what we'd heard from players was like, do not touch my add-ons, this is perfect, we don't want any of this to change, if that's what we'd heard across the board, we would not have proceeded with any of this. But what we heard from a lot of players was, yeah, I shouldn't have to download these third-party tools in order to feel like I'm playing the game correctly. I hate joining a guild or a pickup group and having to download and configure this thing because everyone expects me to, and so on and so forth. Now, a lot of the concerns rested in is Blizzard going to be able to pull this off?
Yeah.
And that is 100% fair, and we own that. We want to continue to own that. But if we're players,
there's going to be some bumps.
This is a good change for the game, but proof is in the pudding when it comes to whether they can deliver. I think we'll take that. At the end of the day, we want to do things that are right for the game, and we need to show and prove to our players.
I like what they're doing. I like the direction they're going. The whole thing is can they do it? Can they actually get it right? Can they put the shit in the game in a way where everything we kind of need at a base level is there, and they design the game in a way where add-ons don't feel like they're required? All that stuff's on them. Overall, getting rid of add-ons, they just came to me and said, Sam, we want to get rid of add-ons. My opinion would have been, great idea. How you going to do it? Can you do it? That's my follow-up. And that's on them. We'll see if they can.
There's over the course of actually doing it, that we are able to pull it off in a nuanced way with their best interest in mind. But I think what we've heard is that, for a lot of players, they feel like the game should be playable out of the box without needing to turn to external assistance, and we agree.
Now, apologies for redundancy. I'm going to read a comment from Reddit. You've already talked about some of this, but I just want to kind of ask a couple things from players directly. Drunken Bob Dole on Reddit says, quote, everything that they've been saying is pretty sound reasoning. The big problem is, are they going to be able to pull it off? For pretty much all of War Within, every X.5 and X.7 patch seemed to break the entire game in half and needs months of hotfixes to even get it playable. Remember when the auction houses stopped working and people had to go back to in-person trades for 2 weeks?
Look at Ian looks like he's traumatized. When he said the auction house thing, look at his face.
When the auction houses stopped.
Oh, man. He's like, oh, you see the little twitch in his eyebrows? Oh, my God, that was funny. He was like,
when the auction house.
We struck a nerve with the. I remember that. That was bad.
To stop working, and people had to go back to in-person trades for
He's in such deep thought about it, the trauma that he's experienced from the game breaking so many times. Oh my God, this man's lost a lot of sleep. He's got a hard job. At the end of the day, I'll be I'm sure Ian is well compensated, and he gets paid a lot of money. But at this point, for sure, he's got enough money. He could just fucking walk away. He could literally rip that midnight shirt off and be like, I'm fucking done. I'm done. I've got more than enough money to live the rest of my life out. I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. But I feel like he sticks around for the love of the game. He does genuinely want to make the game better. I feel like he does. It's in his best interest to. Who the hell's out to ruin a game? Maybe Bobby Kotick, because he wants to just siphon money out. But I don't feel like Ian has that philosophy. Does he have to make money because Big Daddy Microsoft's going to put their hand out at the end of the year and say, where's my 30%? Yeah, he does. But I never felt like Ian's a money chaser or a money grubber. I feel like he just kind of answers to corporate and he does what he has to do. But at the end of the day, I feel like he does want to make a good game. He does. He used to be a player. Don't forget that. And he's an attorney like me. Just saying.
2 weeks. They take on a huge project, seemingly pretty late into
Could have
development.
got back
at
to
midnight.
practicing law.
It will be
Yeah.
the players who suffer if they miss their goals. Hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, I guess.
I mean, I think that
What patch did the auction house break? I forgot. Somebody asked that in chat. It happened during the War Within, but I forgot which patch it was. Was it the one with the mobs happening in Hallowfall? I think it was, maybe. Yeah, it broke everything.
have the majority of our built-in UI
They just shut the auction
improvements
house down.
stood up and player-facing right now. I think damage meters are going to come online in our next beta build next week, and then from this point on, we're just iterating and continuing to add and augment them based on feedback and what players would like to see more of. World of Warcraft, it's no secret, is a very complex game.
Yeah.
We have 20 plus years, 25 years really, of engineering frameworks. And yeah, at scale, when you have millions of players hitting a system, sometimes it will fall over, or sometimes a change can have unintended consequences in other areas. We do everything that we can, and our engineering team does everything they can to minimize those disruptions. We try to test everything as thoroughly as possible with our internal QA team. But when it comes to the user interface, I think that's actually pretty self-contained. There aren't a lot of other dependencies there. It's just logic that's running on your client. And we are confident that with all
Makes
the
sense.
attention that we've had focused on this, this has been the #1 priority for every one of our user interface engineers and UX designers over the last year plus. It's going to continue to be up to launch and beyond, that we're going to be able to deliver. And where we are falling short, we're going to react and prioritize quick action and quick response based on what we're hearing from our community that they need most. This is going to be an ongoing effort. This isn't going to be a one and done thing where it's like, all right, midnight's out. Hope you guys enjoy it. We
Peace.
know that we need to hit a minimum threshold.
I am worried about one thing with the whole add-on removal. It's not that I don't think they're not going to be able to make a damage meter work, or they're not going to be able to make what's it called, like a rotation helper work or something like that. I think they're going to be able to do that. The thing I worry about with the add-on removal is all the other nuances to it. Like they're redesigning how classes work because we don't have add-ons now. So some of those rotational abilities that required add-ons to really understand when to use them, those are gone now. They're going to change how they design boss fights and how they design dungeons and how Mythic Plus works and how raiding works. Like the trickle-down effect of removing add-ons is massive. There's a ton of things being affected by this, and that's what I worry about. I'm a little bit more worried about how classes are going to play at midnight and how the class balancing is going to work and everything than I am about a damage meter being broken, because I feel like that's going to be a fix pretty easily. But if, say, I don't know, Feral Druid's broken or whatever, that for Blizzard's reactions to fixing classes, I feel like takes longer. And if there's a lot of really bad classes early in the expansion, it's gonna take a little while to fix it. I feel like you're gonna lose some people over that. So hopefully they can get that shit right. And that's what a midnight pre-patch is going to be all about for sure. And what beta's about too is getting classes right.
In terms of the game feeling great to play, feeling fully featured, feeling like all
It's
of
just
our
gonna be very
dungeons and
bad,
class
maybe.
mechanics and the rest fit in this new world. But once we've delivered that baseline threshold level, we're going to keep layering more and more on top of that. And the game is only going to get better. It's only going to get richer from here.
Kitlias Steele on Reddit asks, or states, quote, as one who is dependent on some add-ons for accessibility reasons, namely Healbot and DBM, they help with my neurological issues, I'm concerned to see what it may mean for me. As long as the bridge is gapped difficulty-wise with the solutions provided by Blizzard directly, I think things will be okay. Healbot reduces the clicks, no need to select target to heal, and I cast based on my mouse button with the mouse over being my target. And DBM helps give me an advanced warning so I can communicate with my limbs in advance. If I can see the upcoming warnings and such like usual, and if Healbot is unaffected, I personally would be okay. And I think others who would have similar afflictions would be okay.
Yeah, from the outset here, accessibility was one of
Good
our
question.
primary areas of focus. even if it's a minority of players who are using these tools for those reasons, we knew that we couldn't go ahead with changes if it was going to essentially force a big number of those players out of the game. And so we've made a lot of changes to our add-on logic to continue to support as many accessibility-facing tools as possible, as well as pulled a lot of that functionality into our base user interface, as well as adding all new things, like the one-button rotation button assist that we added in I think our 11.17 update.
No, don't refer to it, Ian. No. This is all people are going to talk about. He's talking about the one button being the fucking solution. Ian just said single button rotation is the solution to everything. Fuck. Oh, no, Ian. No, don't mention it, please. Now they're all going to talk about it constantly. Look, single button rotation has its place in the game, and people who use it, they use it, whatever. I don't give a shit. And because at the end of the day, if you do your rotation better than the single button rotation, you're going to be better. And if you don't, then get better. Learn your rotation a little bit more. That's all. Single button Andes, they get so angry.
Huge boon for players with a range of disabilities.
It's garbage by design. It should not be the replacement for actually playing the game.
Without needing to, without needing manual dexterity beyond the ability to just hit a single ability. The specific example cited by that poster, HealBot is an add-on that, I think it sounds like what they're using it for is an easier interface to be able to just click on a frame and have that trigger a heal directly. We actually added the ability to bind mouse clicks directly to casts on raid frames as part of the base UI a few years ago. Similarly, other add-ons like Clique, CLIQUE, still work and are functional in Midnight that offer even more fully fledged customizations there if you have like an MMO mouse and you want to bind, a dozen different buttons.
I have one of those.
Deadly Boss Mods, the function of that add-on DBM, when it comes to showing timelines of upcoming events, we've built in a boss timeline, a boss alert system into our base UI that's hand curated by our encounter designers so that you can see, all right, in the next 25 seconds, this ability is going to fire 15 seconds from now, this one's going to fire 5 seconds from now. And we have been working with add-on authors like the author of DBM to make sure that they have hooks to further visually modify that display. So if you're accustomed to seeing bars or you want to have a custom sound that plays when a specific ability reaches the end of the timeline, you'll still be able to hook those things up.
Run away, little girl, run away. Still available in the game. There you go.
We've also added a range of...
So DBM will work, yeah. DBM will work. DBM will not be able to call out shit itself, but it can change how the visual call out looks on your screen. So if you're used to the DBM way of calling things out, it'll still work. You download DBM and it'll call things out the way it's always done. The difference is they can't decide what's being called out anymore. Blizzard decides what's called out. DBM can change how that visually is presented to you. So I think that's a good compromise. I do.
Text-to-speech functionality and text-to-speech alerts focused largely on visually impaired players.
Same
so
one, no one to
have everything using our base UI from like the health of an enemy when you got aggro, when something changed about combat state, called out with audio alerts. And that's and
by the way, J Mal's right. Ian already said in another. I saw it. He said that calling out when a tank should taunt is going to be a thing. So I'll know. I just wanted an add-on to know anymore.
More. I think at the end of the day, we want Azeroth to be welcoming to everyone. And so we're always going to look at the barriers that are getting in the way of people's ability to access and to experience our content and look at what we can do to tear them down.
You said, quote, WoW's history is littered with examples of the dev team trying to solve perceived problems that most players weren't particularly concerned about. And we wanted to reassure ourselves that we weren't headed down that same path here. What other examples come to mind what were you referencing?
Let's see. Back in Worlds of Draenor days when we decided that, boy, maybe we shouldn't have added flying to the world because it really shrinks the world and, it removes some of the immersion and, the things that you get from traveling around. And we initially heavily restricted access to flight. That was not a popular decision with players, as it turned out. I think it's one that we ended up, walking back gradually until we eventually...
I think Blizzard has done the right thing by flying lately. I like flying in the game. I think it's good. And I do agree that, yes, and if you go back to an old zone, it's less immersive because, you're just flying over it, sure. But what Blizzard's done now, since I would say Dragonflight and the War Within, is instead of saying we're going to not allow a flying so you can experience the zone properly, they've gone back to we're going to design the zone so it can be experienced via flying. That's the way they've gone since Dragonflight, which is why we're getting now these really massive zones, these huge zones that you fly around in rather than, your typical tiny zone that maybe had a lot of ground shit going on, but you would miss it if you were flying around. I think they've done the right thing now. Back in Wrath of the Lich King, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of the zone, Winter Peaks and all that, well designed for flying. All the Titan zones that were very high up, even in Burning Crusade, you had the dungeons that were in the sky. You remember that? And you would fly up to them to get to them. Those were really cool. Those were like design elements that were built so to accommodate flying that existed in the game. And then Blizzard went away from that. They were like, we want to design vanilla style zones again. And that didn't work because we weren't vanilla players anymore. We could fly around. So I think they went back now to, instead of we have this feature that's ruining how we want to design the game, so we're going to pull the feature, to saying players love this feature, we're just going to design the game so it better incorporates this feature. And that's the change up I feel like that's happened recently.
Just kind of made, skywriting an even more dynamic flight.
Yeah, I mean, even look now, you're right. Silver Moon, the new Midnight Zones, the Eastern Kingdom redesign from the top up, completely designed with flying in mind, and that's why those zones are going to be pretty even if you're flying over them.
Flying part of the experience that everyone has today. Or
Designed for
alternately,
flying,
back
yep.
in Shadowlands, when I think, I can say I will happily own this one. I think I personally, as a game director, felt that the ease of, like, the amount of flexibility in changing who your character is and what you're capable of at the drop of a hat was diminishing some amount of investment and a sense of, like, RPG identity. Like, I'm good at these things, but I'm bad at these other things, and you have different strengths and weaknesses, and we can work together to complement each other. There's something compelling about that, and I think that had been something that was more present in WoW in the past, with, like, escalating respec costs to change your talents, back in the vanilla days.
Oh yeah.
And so a lot of the, some of the Shadowlands systems design decisions around covenants, let's say, were aimed at trying to bring back some sense of meaningful choice, some sense of committing to this path and being good at these things at the expense of other possibilities. That was out of step with what players wanted.
They
At the
don't
end
want
of the
that.
day, modern players are looking for flexibility. They're looking to be able to jump from, tanking a dungeon to DPSing in a raid to PvPing. They're looking to switch between alts pretty seamlessly. They're not looking for choices that are going to close off doors for them in engaging in the content they want to engage in.
Yeah.
And took us a minute to fully get that message from the community, but I think, once we did, we changed and aren't looking back in that regard.
Yeah, this is a bit of a tangent, but that last point is interesting because you see, and it just highlights how different game communities are. Like, you see the Outer Worlds 2 recently that came out, and they have a built-in flaw system where you're picking this over that, and it's just interesting to see how some players really gravitate to that, and other player bases are like, no, I want to be able to kind of have a holistic experience. I want to see it all.
And I think some of that's a single player game
Right.
versus a community oriented multiplayer game, where it can feel like maybe you personally like the idea of having a flaw, but then when there's a group that's like, well, yeah, you have a flaw in the content we're looking to do, we're not going to invite you. We're going to invite someone who doesn't have that. Now suddenly you feel a bit differently about the choice that you made. And I think that's a lot of what we saw play out with Covenants, for example, as the community decided that, like, well, if you're this class, if you want to heal a dungeon, you should be this covenant or whatever, and started excluding people who didn't have that choice made. That became a barrier to players just having the baseline experience they were looking for, and it was something we needed to change.
Another thing you said in your blog write-up was, quote, "We are looking for feedback not just on our UI or evolving add-on capabilities, but on aspects of in-game combat that might feel unclear or unfair without some of the tools you are accustomed to use."
I'll give you one. Right over here, pick me. I'll give you one. Do not create a boss fight where the mechanics are literally or slightly off colorations of what the ground is, please. I had the issue with Kaiveza. I'm like, why is the ground burgundy and the ability red? For the love of God, that's not enough contrast. I can't see it quick enough. And it was annoying the shit out of me. And guess what I had to do? Download a weak aura, to get rid of all my UI so I could just visually see where the fuck the mechanic was going. Just colors, Blizzard, colors. Just please make sure the colors contrast enough so I can visually see what the fuck is going on in the room. Burgundy floor, red abilities. Bad choice. Bad choice. Give me a green ability on a burgundy floor or something. I don't know. I know people are colorblind to green, but there's colorblind UI in the game. Just fucking, please, contrast. That's it.
What are some of the specific encounters you're particularly interested in seeing feedback on?
I mean, honestly, it's all of it. Honestly, it's all of our new season, all of our all of our dungeons in Midnight, all of our raid encounters, as well as delves and more. I think there are places over the years where I think we have had mechanics that weren't sufficiently clear in terms of how they were being telegraphed.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about.
In an add-on-less world, we would have gotten loud and clear feedback of like, hey, I keep dying to this thing, and it's really not obvious when I'm being targeted by it. This is very frustrating.
Yeah.
In practice, the players who were most affected tended to use add-ons to solve those, to fill those gaps.
That's what I did.
To play an air horn, to flash something on their screen, to give them a verbal countdown, to make it very clear that a thing was happening. We feel like we have been focusing on shoring up those gaps on our end over the last year and a half. We've approached our encounter design quite differently, with readability and clarity really front and center. But there are probably going to be some places where we missed something. It may be that, hey, there's a pack of enemies in a dungeon where players are just like, wow, it feels like there's one or two too many things going on here. I don't know how I'm humanly supposed to keep track of all these spells.
Arakara's had that issue all season in Mythic Plus. That's why it's the least run dungeon. Those initial polls, there's just too many things in it. And yes, people are pulling big polls at the beginning of that dungeon. That's part of the problem. But it's a timed run, and you want to pull big pulls. That's what's fun about it. And there's too many mobs doing too many things. And Blizzard said they're going to go walk back on that. They're not going to do that anymore. And I've seen a lot of blue posts already going out about changes they're making to the dungeons for Midnight. And every single change has been a nerf to the mobs. Every single patch that I've seen go out has been, oh, we nerfed this mob. No more, that we deleted this one. The cast is going to be longer on this one. So they're trying to make it easier. It's because they know we're not going to have add-ons anymore.
Casts and like interrupt them or avoid these things. And we want to hear that feedback, right? And we're not just going to be tweaking our user interface or our add-on API for our authors over the next few months. We're going to be
they may change the nameplates too, because they did suck. You're right.
Gameplay elements to make sure that the tools that you have are sufficient to understand what's going on, to react to it, and to succeed.
As roadmaps come out in the future for Midnight and beyond, obviously those are really big tent pole, typically. Like,
oh damn! I just thought about it. When are we getting the 2026 roadmap? When did we get the one for 2025? Do they drop it in December, or do we get it in January usually? I wonder. Because, this roadmap's about to end. We don't have one yet for the next year. I'm wondering when we're going to get that. Well, they probably won't give us the roadmap until we know the release date of Midnight. Because I'm assuming the roadmap for 2026 would include the official release date of Midnight. We don't have that yet. So maybe that's what they're waiting for.
This content update, as the UI and add-on situation unfolds, can players expect to see those included in roadmaps? Or is that more so granular, like 0.5 patches, 0.7 patches kind of thing?
I think that there will be add-on updates included in, UI updates included in nearly every patch that we have coming up. I don't know that they'll be at the level of things that get called out on a roadmap far in advance. I think if there's like a major feature, like we're overhauling a whole piece of our UI, that might get called out. But a lot of this is going to be reactive. A lot of this is going to be, players telling us now again that they're on more of a level playing field, viewing things through the same lens. Hey, this is working for me for the most part, but I really feel like I need this, or I really feel like I need that. That's going to inform our prioritization as we look to 2026.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ian. Nice. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Pleasure chatting.
Oh, that was a good interview. I like that a lot. I think Ian did a really good job answering those questions. And that interviewer, the Cheez-It hat, was great. Yeah, he did ask the hard questions. I think he pulled a lot of good stuff from the degenerate Reddit forums, and he asked the right stuff. I think overall Ian's got the right mindset, and that they don't know everything that they're listening to the feedback because the players know better than the game developers because they're in the game so often. They're playing the game. They're at the ground level. So it sounds like they're open to feedback. They're reacting to feedback. And hopefully, as we work together to iterate on the game a little bit, as we head into beta and pre-patch and all that other shit, things will get better. Things will get better. Don't worry, guys. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. I think this is better for the game overall. I think the game's heading in the right direction. I am excited for Midnight, and I have my no worries about class design and everything like that. But I think overall this should be a good expansion going forward. So we'll see what happens. Overall, nice interview here from Game Informer.